Performance CEO show. Today, I have a special guest, Pedro Specter from Gothenburg. Pedro, at his 30s, he's a symbol of effort and ambition. He's currently the founder and managing partner of Nortb Inc., which is a company that blends both financial and IT expert consulting. And they recently started its intercontinental expansion to Portugal and the Philippines. Together with his family, he leads Nortb, which was considered one of the 18th fastest growing data management companies in Sweden during 22, grew 400% in Q1 and Q2. So amazing development. And a person, Pedro, never gives up. He's quite committed to innovation and dreams of a new world where efficiency and sustainability are the models for the future. In 2022, he also holds a position as a CTO of Ingenium Labs, and he is committed to innovate the health tech industry. Welcome to the show, Pedro.
Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you.
This is amazing bio. I mean, we talked about before, we have a lot in common, and it's really great that we met. You are in your 30s and already has a lot of experience and quite some big visions, some big dreams to change the world. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about you. So how did you got to where you are right now?
Well, the travel path in the last 5 years has been quite exciting. I used to work first to another consulting firm, one of the big ones, and then at some point I said, no, this is not yet the path I would like. Their leadership, I was making strategies to the clients, and still I didn't agree with the own leadership strategy and overall strategy. And I said, no, I will finish this and then go over my own and develop my own path and my own company. Then 5 years ago, I went in the market. First, I started doing mostly marketing strategies and marketing towards other persons here in Sweden. And at some point, I started diverging into the IT since I have as well programming skills since I was young, and starting making websites here and there. Then came web applications, then came more advanced stuff when clients said, okay, now we have an infrastructure, what can you do for us? And of course, AIs and other part of activities came. This was quite connected to IT before the pandemic, and it worked well. After the pandemic, of course, the pandemic made companies go a little bit under, especially in Sweden. But lucky me, I started working as well with IT in Germany, in companies in Germany. And since the technological level of Sweden is a little bit more higher than Germany, of course, Germans love what we provide towards Germany, and our level of technological services are quite interesting to the German market. So this has been increasing, and at some points, I still remember this year, I had one of my best friends and clients and partners. Nowadays, we don't even consider any more clients, it's partner. He said, hey, it's really good technological level, but I will be more interested in the consulting, the strategy part and the management part. And of course, I started showing up the work that I used to do before, and when I used to work to one of the big ones. And of course, after they saw, wait, you know all that? That's amazing. And I was like, yeah, sure. Let's try these 3 strategies. And it worked well. And they start recommending to other people. And of course, the company has grown to the point of it came as well a decision, okay, it's time to expand. And my partner and wife, she used to work as well for one of the big ones and as a management consultant. And we said, okay, we do this system, and we put our family in Portugal and our family in Philippines doing the same system, replicating the system. And the company, suddenly we had an intercontinental company with offices in 3 different countries. and it's quite a mess. Nowadays, I don't look so much into the company. I look mostly on the financials, that the things are going smooth, and make sure that this overall strategy and the targets are being accomplished. But I focus mostly in engineering labs because it's still a little bit of the IT, and the part of the medtech really fascinates me. So it's where I put, I would say, 100% of my focus, and I leave 1% to Nortb just to make sure the system is running. And my wife, of course, she helps me controlling that the family are doing the meta targets.
So you already made this transition from working in the company to working on the company. So being basically kind of business owner or Nortb, and your passion is in health tech, as I understood. Yeah.
Yes.
But
As of the moment, health tech is exciting. It's really exciting, especially in Germany. We live in a transition moment. The things from the COVID period to what comes after now, maybe a new wave, maybe a new period, maybe innovation because of what we learned during the pandemic. It's quite a progress, and it's where the most innovative and innovation is the most.
Let's talk about this very exciting subject a little bit later, and come back to your immense growth of Nortb. Yeah, so you started as a programmer, as a web developer, and then expanded the company. You went into management consulting. What is the typical project you're working on, or Nortb is working on, because you only spend 1% of your time there?
Yeah, Nortb is, as of the moment, has a couple of projects on the table. There is software development, there is infrastructure maintenance. Our most exciting project they have as of the moment, it's setting up data warehouses, where they combine different data from different sources. They create after a data layer, and then they generate business insights, business intelligence insights from the data layers. It's quite interesting, the work that they are being developed, especially in the fintech and in the logistics tech. In the supply chain tech, it's quite interesting what they are doing. And then, of course, we have the strategy consulting, where the typical project, we go to a client, we see the problems, we create a project of 3 months to solve that problem in the operational level. It sometimes goes from allocating resources in some point, other times goes by redefining the strategy and actually question if the product is okay, or if it can get better, it can be developed, or even help key partnerships where they can progress and actually expand and open new channels and new revenues in the market.
Very good. And you have subsidiaries in Portugal and in the Philippines. So this is, big spectrum. How did you, what challenges did you overcome when you opened these? I mean, these are two different cultures, different time zones. So how do you manage that this works smoothly together with the headquarters in Gothenburg?
In the beginning, I'm going to be honest, I chose 2 of the countries where the bureaucracy, it's literally one of the most complicated to establish a company. It's
in Portugal.
In Portugal, and especially the Philippines. In the Philippines, our process took almost 3 months to be in place, for the company to be actually in place. But afterwards, it became active, and still, nowadays, we still deal with some bureaucracy headaches, I would call them, because when it comes to VAT reportings and all the filings, economical filings, it's quite a different system than we are used to in Europe, and it differs a little bit, but it's quite interesting and it's going well. The main the main strategy that we did, it's the 3 branches, the headquarters in Sweden and the branches in Portugal and Philippines. They differ the activity. In Philippines, it acts mostly as a call center and a support line services for clients that sometimes need those services, or even for our intern activity if we need someone to provide calls and communicate faster. We have the Philippines, where most of the big companies, they establish their call centers in the Philippines. So Philippines is a market where actually the call center support and the call assistant and telemarketing and even people dealing with cold calling sales, it's quite specialized in that area. Since Philippines, the two most areas that exports, either it's nurses to Europe and US, either it's call center agents, because they are quite trained in English and they are quite fluent, and they focus on that area. In Portugal, actually, it differs a little bit, because since I was a kid, I grew up with quite a lot of people who like computers and technology, and kind of some, this I shouldn't say this, but some of them were connected to not so nice activities. They were a little bit of a hackers when we were kids. It was some challenges. Okay, let's see what we can do here and that. But afterwards they stopped, and nowadays they work as programmers and IT professionals. And of course, Portugal focus more on IT. All the strategy part and mostly management part comes in Sweden. It's a market where in Sweden it's mostly already an established market, and it's quite interesting to be in the management consulting market in Sweden. So we focus more on that activity here. Of course, I travel overall, so sometimes I change a little bit the type of activity I do, and it's interesting. The work is being progressed so far.
Yeah. And how do you manage the team? I mean, I also have people in the Philippines, actually. I mean, these are amazing people. We have basically our marketing department is there, amazing strategists, video cutters, editors. So there's a big amount of very high skilled people. And as you said, they speak an amazing English. So, and how do you manage the different cultures between the three locations?
Yeah, well, here it comes my secret. The secret started actually at home, because my wife, she's Filipina. So, of course, the first challenge was actually at home when we started dating, and then afterwards we married, and it took a while to adjust. From the normal single life or being in a relationship to get married, the cultural shock was a lot. Coming this mentality, okay, that's how it works. Nowadays, yeah, I got used, and I managed to know their culture very well and what to do and not to do. So, of course, it's the things run smoothly. As a kid, I always was interested as well with Asian cultures, especially Japan, and I still have the plan, and most likely it will happen still within the year, to move fully to Japan and make my main residence in Japan. And every time I need to come to Europe or go to US or South America, just fly around. But yeah, I have that thing, and I admire Asian cultures. So I was always fascinated. Then when I met my wife, it went really well, because, of course, I was already fascinated. Filipino culture is a little bit similar as well to Portuguese culture. And Portuguese culture, one of my parents is Portuguese, so I have as well that background. And of course, it was quite easy to integrate and assimilate the culture and know the do's and to-dos and not to-dos over the Filipino culture.
Yeah, it's interesting. We have people on. I mean, they have thousands of islands in the Philippines. Yeah, it's quite interesting, and we have people scattered across the different islands. And the biggest challenge for us is rain there. You know, when it's heavily raining, then the internet is very bad.
I was actually this year in Manila in August, and there was a typhoon. So I remember that at some moments I was still at the office, and there was no transportation available. I had to rain literally under a flooding and water, and that situation in Europe, we are quite lucky not having these kind of weather catastrophes, because it's quite tough to be there.
Yeah, but yesterday one of our team members, he wasn't available anymore. You know, I said, "Hey, what happened?" Yeah, and then his colleague called him, and we figured out, well, one of the generators was blown up. You know, so he had no electricity anymore. So very interesting challenges, but it's a great addition to our team, and I don't want to miss these people. They are really amazing. Yeah. So it's a great success story with Nortb, yeah, and I really will watch you further grow. But let's talk about Ingenium, and let's talk about health tech, because I mean, especially now after these 2 years of the pandemic, health is much more in the focus of many of the people, and investing in health tech. And I mean, I love to try out a lot of things. You know, love to improve myself, and I'm testing all kind of methods and exercises and supplements to stay healthy. I wear this Oura ring, you know, which measures my sleep and everything. So I'm really interested in health tech. Tell us, what are you doing there, and what is on the horizon in the next years?
Oh, in Ingenium, I'm acting CTO, which means I'm the responsible for all the infrastructure, digital part of Ingenium. And what we are doing there, it's an amazing work, because Ingenium started 2 years ago, I would say 3 years ago, and with very high ambition and very high targets. It's quite really ambition. Then pandemic came, and we went into the business of PCR testing in Germany, but in a very innovative way, because we always try to keep the PCR the less intrusive to the people who are being tested. And we developed a business model around it, and suddenly the pandemic affected really hard Germany, and the mass growth of Ingenium came. The business model of Ingenium is as well quite amazing, because we focus as well on the IT, on the digital parts, and we provide all the test stations in Germany and the partner state and the pharmacies with the possibility of being part of a huge network that gathers everything, literally everything in one service to provide to the end customer. And it started with PCR, and I can say that there are already new testing procedures coming on, and we are as well working with higher technology that will actually make the health tech market in Germany quite different and quite revolutionary from what it is as of the moment. For confidentiality motives, I cannot disclose,
of course,
the things that are coming, but it's quite a huge step to Germany, because Ingenium counts with one great asset. It's a company that gathers people from everywhere. It's not only German mentality, but there are different multinationalities within the company and different experience and backgrounds. So the progress goes in a very fast and steep way, and it's not linear as the normal growth when you have only one focus on one nationality. But because of the multiculturality, it's actually a couple of ideas, and the progress goes really exponential. It's quite amazing, the period that we are living in. So we have, for example, a lab that is really well professional and multicultural. We have an IT team that it's an amazing multicultural team, and we are almost all of us sitting and working remotely, which is quite challenging sometimes to coordinate everything. But we, compared to the normal IT teams, our sprints last usually less than 1 week, and even deployments and the things move. We release products when products would take 3-4 months to develop. We release products in less than 1 month, or even earlier, in less sometimes than 2 weeks. Or it happened to just have an idea and had 1 week to do the whole conceptualization and implementation and deployments in order to work. And it's quite exciting, the moment we live in. Then, of course, the rest of the infrastructure with all operational side, logistics and coordinations and partner care and support, it's quite well structured. And our CEOs and managing directors and are quite amazing people that, as like me, they work they do not rest. Everyone is always aware of the problems and solving problems, and on call to, if something happens, we just jump to solve the problems.
I saw your post the other day. Why do I work 18 hours per day? I was impressed.
Yeah.
But it shows your dedication, and I see your eyes full of passion for this topic. And now I also remember where I where I remember this name, Ingenium Labs, because I think it was on one of the PCR test statements from a PCR test I unfortunately had to do before the holidays when a whole family got COVID. And
regarding the 18 hours, I was actually surprised last week. One of my routines is to count my productivity times and how much time I spend per task and per subject. So, for example, if I have administrative subjects, I measure how much time it takes me, and I try to every day to reduce or do more within that same time frame in order to become more productive and more efficient. And I count all the time that I spend, because for me, my coin, I would call it, it's not a euro or Swedish crown or a dollar, it's seconds and minutes.
Yes.
It's my coin and my currency. So I count all the time I spend in my life. And I managed to make the resume of last week. And in some, it was 120 hours in a week. And I didn't arrive to 126 to make every day 18 hours. Because my wife puts a stop on there, but still.
Well, rightly so. Yeah, I have to say. I mean, with all due respect, and it's amazing how much time you put in, but you also need to rest and you also need to rejuvenate. Otherwise, you might end up in a situation where you don't have the energy anymore, which would be traumatic with all the goals you have in life and all the great things you do.
Yeah, but there are ways to combine things. That's the good part of it. It's 18 hours, but it's combined with a special design routine that I ordered a couple of years ago of a friend that he works mostly with productivity and coaching managers to become better and become more efficient. And he had as well a background of a consulting firm, which is quite cool. And in a way, that it works specifically with optimizing processes. So we designed me a routine where the 18 hours are filled with mostly work, but sometimes work as well, sometimes with physical activity, sometimes with spending, because my wife works on the same field, we can have the possibility of bonding together, do things together, and yet being working at the same time, which is quite cool because we call it work and still we are doing bonding time and
together. Exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't drive me to exhaustion. If I would say my secret, it's exactly that. It doesn't drive me to exhaustion because I managed to have a routine that it's quite combined different things.
This is important, yeah. When you combine different activities, when you include exercise, for example, or even like you spend time with your wife during your work time. And then really have a system and a routine, which is amazing. And yeah, you obviously really follow the statement: what you don't measure, you can't manage. And so you constantly track your time. You probably have a tool which tracks the time for each system. And I'm so glad that you spent this time with me here on this call. Because these are very interesting insights and things our audience would love to hear.
I am honored as well that you chose me for being part of your podcast. I saw that it's quite a recent thing. So being one of your first choices, it's like a honor. And honestly, I believe that everyone is... I honestly, personally, I don't like the concept of client. Having a client, it's something that says, okay, I have someone who is paying me something. Yeah. So on that point of view, on that perspective, is already losing. So I like to have key partners and channel partners. I like to have the concept of partnership where I partner up with people with contacts I know and I say, okay, we have a target where both parties win. And then, of course, at the end, we take care of division of profits. But until then, the focus is actually arriving, a target arriving, an ambition. And that's actually part of how we develop business in Nortb. We start sometimes with people asking, hey, can you do that? Yes, we can do that. But what's the target? And most of the targets, if we see that the target doesn't fit what we are doing in-house, then it doesn't fit actually the activities, wasting time in something that it's not for us. So we are very selective in the clients we choose to work with because of that. We have our own projects and we want partners that are part of that project to develop that project. And when it comes to talking about profits, it's just at the end of the project is done and we make sure that it succeeds, that we talk about profits, because before that, why? It's a
I actually
situation
like
of
this
creating
idea.
a list.
Yes, I like this idea because in the end, it's always a give and take. And I mean, I have worked together with individuals of companies in both ways. One is supplying something to the other, and then it's the other way around, and it's a constant progress. And you help each other, you grow together, you evolve, and this is how it should be. I also don't like this just client supplier relationship type of thing, because hey, we live in such a fast changing world, and everyone has something he can bring to the table. Yeah? And this is obviously also your way of working, which I quite like.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So your and you would say your main high performance tactic is really measuring the time you spend on individual tasks, optimizing this time, and building a routine throughout the day where you really integrate business, but also integrate private matters like spending time with your wife or working out exercises to have a kind of a balanced way of spending the day. Is this right?
Yes, not only that would be a very simple way of putting it, but yeah, it's a little bit more complex because I have certain activities, and then I measure as well. I combine performance over those activities, and for example, sometimes if I say, okay, the day before I didn't solve. I have, for example, I can give you an example. Between 5 a.m. to 6:15, usually it's my time of answering emails from the day before. And if I don't manage to answer all the emails that I have in the mailbox, then it's a failed day. It's like, doesn't work well. So usually I measure these kind of things, the performance of many things I do. And if I see, okay, I have already answered everything, so I have time here, and I try to combine another atomic habit here. That's the concept that it misses here, because this routine is based on a concept called atomic habits. So every day I introduce something that makes me more effective. And according to the theory, at the end of the year, I'll be 33% more effective every year. Exactly.
Speaking of atomic habits, amazing book. I also have it here. I also constantly learn and apply things. It's
actually, I started doing this like 3 years ago, and meanwhile, I can say that people get impressed, and especially what I'm about to say, but I can speak fluently 6 languages already, and I'm trying to learn German, but German is quite complex, but it will go there as well. Little by little, every day, I take my 30 minutes for German, and at some point, I will speak German as well, and I see in other progresses of my life, I learn about engineering, I learn about health, I learn about finance, I learn about way different topics. And by reading every...
Consistency is key. Yeah,
Yes.
Consistency, and always never breaking a chain. I mean, this is one of the biggest learning I have from Atomic Habits, that sometimes, okay, you implement your habits like working out in the morning, but there are days you might not feel well, you might not have enough time, but at least doing a little bit, maybe 10% of your planned workout already keeps the process and the flow running. Yeah. Otherwise, if you break this habit, it's just broken. We had this, we've seen this so many times, and honestly, especially, I saw this happening a lot during the pandemic. Before the pandemic, there are so many things which took place on a regular basis, meeting people, having events, and so on. But then the pandemic really brought a stop to many things. And now, as we're getting out of the pandemic, many of those initial habits or events or things you did, they don't exist anymore. Yeah, because the pandemic broke this pattern, and now people have to start from scratch. Yeah, and
I wouldn't say broke. It's a continuous change.
it's a
One
change, but it's a lot of changes in this small period of time.
One thing that I noticed, and we have a thing in engineering, I'm going to speak a little bit about this. I hope my partners don't kill me, but we have been doing a little bit research into long COVID and its effects of pandemic. Many people in Germany actually suffer from long COVID, and they don't know because it's sequels. And one of the things that I notice is when it comes to the weight, it's as a very sensible matter, but people with the pandemic got fattier and lost the habits of training and working out. One of the things, for example, that I do personally, I try to work out at home, but this was a new habit that I introduced a couple of months ago, because even myself during the pandemic, me and my wife, we were in pandemic time in the Philippines, and that period I really went like 10 to 15 kilos up, and now I'm trying to lose all that weight and get more active, and still it's a routine that the pandemic caused for people to lose to work out. And like workout, there are many conditionals, because one of the effects is people don't have more energy to when they had before the pandemic. It's as well a COVID effect that there's difficulty in breathe and there's lack of energy. And so until all this is surpassed and evolved into a new transition area, it's still, people are still getting used and getting the new routines. I see in Sweden, actually, I got back this week and I see that everybody's actually starting to do events, and the things are returning to how they were before pandemic. I hope, and this as someone who works with a lot of COVID analysis of COVIDs and data, for that there is not a new wave, because it's the data indicates the contrary, that the numbers are going high again, and especially in Sweden, no one is paying attention anymore, and it's quite troublesome. But I hope that there will be mechanisms in place and that people don't lose these things of going back to events or actually do exercise and be active, because the pandemic changed many things. And one thing that I see is people stop having movement in their lives. They stop. That's not good, in my opinion, and that's what I try to fight during our pandemic, to be the most active and productive and efficient. While I see everybody sleeping, I just move forward. I don't quit. Even if sometimes it's tough and I get into places where the door is totally closed. No, we can't do that because it's pandemic.
Yeah.
And one effect that I work as well in logistics, I had a couple of projects in logistics, and one huge problem that it's the lead times and actually the high inflating rates over the diesel and the gas products and things that move cars and trucks. And this is a huge problem for logistic companies, but with some challenges. And sometimes I would go and no, our door is closed, we can't do that, that's no budget for that, it's too expensive, we really need to raise prices. No, at some point there's a yes. So that's my philosophy. I never quit until I get the yes, and as soon as I get the yes, okay, let's implement it. It works, let's move forward in innovation. That's all the secret sauce, I would say.
Talking about working out privately, I also turned one of my rooms in the office into a gym during the pandemic, because the gym was closed, and so I basically bought kind of a bike thing and put some mats out, some weights, and it's amazing. It's there's no hurdle to do something. Yeah, it's next door. Yeah, sometimes I take my lunch break and do a workout. Yeah, or I do this in the evening. So we have to find ways to make things easy for us, to achieve our goals and to work out. But it's interesting to hear, because I experienced the same. that a lot of events happening now also in Germany. Yeah, so many in the summer. I couldn't attend some of them because I was on holiday, and so every week was something else. It's just crazy, and yeah, I hope that things don't go as bad as they went last year, and that we come into a pseudo lockdown again. That things continue. It's also interesting to see different countries. I mean, Sweden had a complete different strategy in dealing with COVID than Germany. So
Probably no Philippines. It was complete lockdown for almost
yes.
a year. The family of my wife and the people we know there and work with there, they were like, no, we can't go out. It's complete lockdown. I was there actually I arrived in August 2021 there, and I had to spend 14 days in a quarantine facility, in a quarantine hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And after 14 days, no, sir, at 10 in the evening, you need to be complete lockdown in your hotel and you can't go out until next day at 6 a.m. And I was literally shocked. Yeah. How can this be? How can I not go out? I felt like a prisoner, but still the numbers there were more terrifying than in Europe. And in Europe, I think we developed the most important part, even with the vaccination. It gave actually a breath of air into the whole lockdown situation. But we developed certain mechanisms that we understand now. It's not necessarily a complete lockdown. We just need to have specific measures in place for the things to work out, actually. And for example, you were talking about events. One thing that I believed Ingenium did in the past, and it's quite good, is if in case there's a huge wave, to actually not stop the events, but test everybody beforehand. They go to the events and actually, even before they enter the gate for the event, to test them.
And fast test systems available.
Yes. And I noticed, for example, these kind of events that happened last weeks in Munich with the Oktoberfest, that it could have these mechanisms in place, because the cases are raising a little bit, might be to that or not, but the cases are raising a little bit, and these mechanisms, if they were in place, might actually reduce the amount of infected. But that's another story.
Yeah, the technology is available. Yeah, the methods are available. We just have to use it. We have to bring in vaccination rates up. We have to use these fast test methodologies and
I believe that when it comes to health tech, Germany has a huge problem, and it's the question of data privacy. The major difference when it comes to Sweden is that in Sweden, our data, it's centralized in one place. The government centralizes all financial data, all health data, all criminal records data, everything bundled in one place. So you, as a medical institution, you just need to do an API call to the government, and you fetch immediately all the data related to that person, and you know the history. In Germany, this doesn't happen because data privacy, it's a huge issue when it comes in Germany. So there are already a couple of good things going forward. For example, Corona Warn App, it was quite a good initiative. And even with Ingenium, we have mechanisms to communicate the results of the tests to the government through an interface that is called DEMIS, and everything is spread through the whole country saying this person was infected at this day. There are already a couple of these mechanisms, but the big obstacle, it's actually the data privacy, because people are afraid of sharing their data. Mechanisms that we are developing that mechanisms that facilitate the transfer of data between systems and pharmacies, and I believe that Germany, it will go back to what it was. I still remember 10 years ago, Germany, whenever it would come the word Germany to my mind, I would think, okay, it's quite high. It's the best in Europe. It's the best technological level in Europe. Nowadays, it's a little bit under the Scandinavians, but it will get up and it will catch up. And people like me from Scandinavia, we are moving and working with Germans, so we will innovate. Germany back again, and I believe Germany will recover and be again the major center of Europe.
Thanks for your support. I think
Yeah, I
Germany.
actually love Frankfurt
Yeah,
and all the, and now a little bit about fintech. The fact that the Central European Bank it's actually in Frankfurt, it makes all difference because when it comes to finance deals and fintech, Germany would be my first choice to be now because of that thing. All the business passes through there. It's quite amazing. It's actually my wife doesn't like it, but one of my favorite places to be it's actually the German airports because the amount of people I see and the amount of people I see working when I'm sitting in the lounges, it's quite funny because
yeah.
it's everybody's working, everybody's looking at reports, everybody's looking at that P&L. Where can we get the next forecast and the next signal in order to make the investments? It's quite amazing, and yeah, I would say when it comes to fintech, Frankfurt will be the European center and the European hub for all the fintech.
It's definitely a lot happening here in Frankfurt, and but
Yeah,
I love to see you physically, meet you physically soon when you come next to Frankfurt.
yeah, I will arrive next Thursday, I think, the 29th. I
So we
will arrive.
definitely have to meet up to talk. It's been a pleasure having you here on the show. We already talked more than we planned because it's such an interesting conversation and so many insights. I take with me and also for the audience Atomic Habits, yeah, and I really can recommend this book from James Clear. Something you will not, you will basically. I use this for years because you cannot consume everything in one go. Yeah, it's like a book you always have next to you, and you take a little bit, implement it in your life, and then you continue. So it's been a real pleasure having you here on the show. Is there anything else you would like to share with the audience from your
So
wrap up?
I just say to everybody that the topic of your podcast is the high performance, and the high performance, the secret is never quit. Just improve yourself every day. And
I have this phrase, can I constant and never-ending improvement, and this is something I also live off. And thank you so much, Pedro, for your time. I know the clock is ticking. I know you measure all the time you spend. So
I still have 14 minutes. In 14 minutes, yes, I will cut you off. But until then, it's quite all right.
Thank you so much. And it will be a pleasure to meet you in person in Frankfurt soon.
Yeah, just drop me a signal in LinkedIn and we manage to get a date so that we can meet in person.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.